Space Marine Adventures, a cooperative game set in the world of Warhammer 40,000. And we know that Warhammer 40,000, together with Magic the Gathering, is a major force in today's hobby world. At the same time, it can be a little daunting, especially if you're not into the hobby aspect of gaming. You don't feel like painting, building miniatures, or reading hundreds of pages of rules, and that'd be me. I like miniature war games, but say I don't have the skills, inclination, or time to learn how to build and paint miniatures. But I still like war games and games where you have people with big armors destroying stuff. So what is the solution? The solution is Space Marine Adventures Labyrinth of the Necrons. This is a self-contained game. You don't need to add anything. Everything you need to play is in the box. And it's a very simple, intuitive game. For hardcore Warhammer players, it may be way too easy, way too linear. One way of describing it would be my first Space Hulk. I played the original Space Hulk, which I like very much, and this is a cooperative and simpler version, and I think there can definitely be a use for it. Heck, it's a Space Hulk adjacent game that I can play with my daughters that are 7 and 9, so there has to be something to be said for that. But before I anticipate too many of the conclusions, in this game we play these Marines and we enter a dark labyrinth and we complete different missions. There are 3 types of missions. They're called levels, so you can start from level 1, then level 2 and level 3. I'm not gonna show those decks because you can see there is a surprise element. I don't want to spoil it for you. Suffice to say, those decks will have a card that gives you the deep briefing about the mission, tells you what the players are trying to accomplish. And then there's a deck of cards representing the actions of the evil villains. The game comes with 5 miniatures that really are easy to assemble. They truly are. Sometimes companies say that, but then I suffer and cry. Nope, these ones I was able to put them together. As you can see, they're already coded by color, on top of being very different shapes, but the color makes it very intuitive to tell them apart. And I need to paint them to be able to have a game that is intuitive and which I can easily tell which piece is which. So you have these 5 miniatures. The monsters are represented by cardboard discs, and that's fine by me, so I don't have to build them. And those cardboard discs are stored in a bag, and you will draw them and you will place them on the board. Boards, actually you have several boards. You have 3 boards and they are double-sided, so that's great because you get a lot of variety of gameplay. They all represent these mazes of narrow tunnels in which our clunky Marines are gonna be in trouble because they're attacked by monsters, but also because sometimes I think that the Space Marines' worst enemy is their armor. They just get in each other's way, they can't move, like, okay, just move there, let me go, I need, So the fact that the tunnels are so tight and you can move through your friends but not end movement there is part of the challenge. Try not to create traffic jams of your own making while the monsters slaughter you. Each board has 4 entrances. What I'm going to tell you is about the general traits of the game that apply to all 3 missions, okay? So all boards have 4 exits. You choose one and you place that tile there that represents a staircase and also is exactly like this one. It has a duplicate. You place it on any one of the 4 entrances. On the other 2, you place these tokens here. Of these 3 tokens, all 3 have this sort of rock on one side and 2 of them have the same image on the other side and the other one doesn't. The other one is the exit, the place where our Marines will try to get the heck out of there after they complete the mission. And usually the mission will have something to do with this tile here. You need to go there and activate it, do something, and then find your way out. Once you're allowed to look on the other side of these tokens, you know which one is the exit, then you will place this token here, this tile here. Suppose that this is the exit and we place it here. The idea is you go in, you complete a mission and you go out. And you win if a certain number of Space Marines make it back out, make it out from that tile. You have 5 miniatures, 5 marines, but you only use 4 every turn. Each marine comes with a card that tells you about the abilities of that marine. You have a number of actions, which is pretty much what you think it is. It's a number of actions that the marine can perform every time the marine activates. Range of their weapon, that's how far they can attack, and then a special ability for each of them. This marine, for example, is good when attacking non-adjacent enemies. This guy with the combat knife is good when attacking adjacent enemies, can get 3 attacks. And also this guy with the chainsaw sword, good against adjacent, and so on and so forth. To customize them further, you have these cards, these equipment cards that are assigned. Each marine gets 1 of them. They can be used only once per game, but they're really powerful. They're totally worth it. Feel free to pause the video and read some of these descriptions. I'm not gonna read them in their entirety because I don't have that kind of time. Now, each marine also comes with 2 activation cards. So if that marine is in the game, then I take these 2 activation cards. If this marine is in the game, then I also take these 2. And so you put together all of the activation cards of the marines that are in the game, plus a number of evil villain cards. And you shuffle all of these cards together so that you form the activation deck. Finally, the monsters are represented by these cardboard tokens on the board, and they are all associated with cards up there that, however, they have an image, so you can associate them. They have a flavor text, but all that matters really is the number that you see there, which is the number of resilience points, that is, of health points. When you're attacking one of those monsters, if you roll their resilience or more, you destroy the monster. And so you roll a die, a d6, apply possible modifiers based on distance, special abilities, scenario instructions, etc., etc., etc. Now, back to us. So we made the activation deck, mixing together our marines' abilities and the monsters. And then we start flipping cards from the activation deck, and simply whichever card we flip, we activate that figure. Suppose we just drew the activation card for this one, then this one goes. The character is activated, gets the number of actions. For an action, you can move by 1 square, only diagonally, only orthogonally, not diagonally. You cannot cut corners. And there you go. For 1 action, you can attack a monster. Say this guy is good at attacking adjacent, so he'll do it that way, but it's not necessary. Actually, you can even attack through your friends. It's assumed that they are dodging or something like that. So this guy, for example, could attack that one as long as the shooting marine has the target within range and in line of sight. Whatever the case, again, you can spend an action to move by 1 spot, you can spend an action to attack. When you attack, you roll a die, and if you rolled right, then you remove the monster. Otherwise, nothing happens. Opportunity cost, you just wasted that attack. And suppose that after a while, we cleaned up the board, we're around like this and doing things, etc., etc., etc. Now, what happens when we activate the monsters, when their activation cards are revealed? Each time that you get the activation card for the monsters, you draw a card for the deck that corresponds to the mission that you're playing, level 1, level 2, level 3, and then you see what happens. Generally speaking, a lot of them will instruct you to add tokens to the board in specific locations. You can see there are number of locations. These are the teleportation points, and those evil people appear from there. So say, if the card tells you add a monster in 4, well, you add a monster in 4, and add a monster in 6, you draw them from the bag, and you then add 1 in 6. So far, so good. However, if you are told to add monsters in locations that already have a token, then you need to place them. You need to place a monster in each location adjacent to it. So if location is quote-unquote clean, you're only going to get one token monster. Otherwise, one in each location adjacent to that monster. And what happens if the adjacent locations are taken too? Then, well, pretty much they travel. So here, instead of putting here, I keep going until I find an empty spot. Here, I guess I could put it here, 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 and suppose I want to put it there. So you have these chains of monsters that emanate from these transportation points. If you're supposed to place a token and you can because there's a marine, say, if we're supposed to add a token here, we should put it, there's already one there, so we need to go to the adjacent spaces. There's an adjacent space, but here we should put one, but we can't, and here we should one, but we can't. Every time you should put a token in a space that has a marine, you can't, and instead of placing a token there, the marine is wounded. A healthy marine is flipped to its wounded side. A wounded marine that takes another wound is eliminated. So the game will be over if all marines are eliminated, which is really bad, and then in case you lose the game. Also, if the deck of mission cards runs out, then it took you too long, you also lose the game. The only way to win is to complete the mission and then to get out. But again, you need a certain number of them for the victory not to be a completely Pyrrhic one. And this is how you play Space Marines Adventures. Space Marine Adventures. If you're looking for another Space Hulk, maybe a smaller, cheaper version, keep going, keep looking. If you're looking for, again, a starter set, the Warhammer 40k, you're gonna be so mad. You're gonna look like, well, one of these people. They always look mad. Have you noticed? They're never like, oh, what an interesting situation I'm in. But what you have here is my first Space Hulk. That is a game with this interesting theme of Space Marines fighting against aliens. Who does not love that? I know my kids love that topic. And I can play it with them. It is a kid-friendly family experience co-op that features a huge number of monsters that blow up. So for some of you that will be like a contradiction in terms, but I don't want my kids to have to do with this violent theme. What if one day we make contact with aliens and my kids will think that they are all bad? Maybe there's not enough of much of a wholesome theme for you, but in most families of gamers we are tolerant, and I know that this is the kind of game I can play with my kids. Because it's that simple. It's simpler than Pandemic. It has a little bit of that Pandemic feel because, yes, mind you, the monsters are very abstract and they basically, quote-unquote, they have outbreaks. They expand in long chains. And yet, dealing with those is not, it's not trivial. There is fun to be had in that. The worst thing, of course, is when a chain of monsters reaches another chain of monsters. Then they will start quote-unquote teleporting because it's going to be a long time before you find another area where you can add one of those tokens. Chances are there's going to be a marine there. On the other hand, of course, cleaning the teleportation token is the best thing that you can do because then you just know you'll add only one token next time that teleportation space hits. Another fun thing is to break the chain. It's not the ideal, but you're preventing multiple things feeding off each other and sort of like magnifying each other's effect, which is when you have teleportation centers, points that are connected to one another. It's not that simple. It starts easy as you're like, ping, ping, I'm going there, killing some monster, and it's fine. And then before you realize it, the place starts feeling really packed, really full of those monsters. It's hard not to be adjacent to them. And then you're managing risks. Oh, well, I need to be adjacent to this monster, hoping they don't attack me from there while I am in a position to shoot against something, to do something else. And in general, it's a game where combat is up and personal. It's great when you can see a monster at a distance and you can attack them with your magnificent long range weapons, but it's a tight claustrophobic place where often you have to turn around the corner and slaughter the monsters and you're so close to them. So the structure of the space, it really gives you the sense of claustrophobia of a place that is dangerous, where you're packed, where you're just so close, up close and personal with the enemies, with the monsters. which again is thematically very interesting, and it presents you with all sorts of tactical interesting decisions because there isn't much space. And I have 3 actions now, and basically if I shoot, then I don't have enough to move past my 2 friends and go somewhere else. So although I have 3 actions, I have to choose if I want to shoot or spend all 3 or move, because maybe in the situation is in order to be able not to end on a monster, which I can't, or on a friend, which I can't, I need to move 3. And so you find yourself actually having to face some interesting decisions in a game that is so simple. And if you don't have kids, then you still have a copy of the game where you get to blow up stuff and you can set it up, minimal setup time, and you can play the entire campaign, all 3 levels, and put it back in the box in 90 minutes or so. So to me, that's an advantage. I don't know that there would be, the only type of cooperative game that I want to play or the only type of war game that I want to play, but a game that is that simple, that linear, I can play with casual gamers. And it's perfectly self-contained. I didn't have to paint anything. To me, that's a game that definitely has a lot of good things about it. It's very accessible. Anybody can play it, adults and young gamers, so hardcore gamers, but only if they want to take a break from the heavy stuff. Casual gamers, and the most important thing, it's fun. For a game this simple, I can't think of any rule. If you take away one rule, the game is not abstract. It's already so simple that it's almost verging on abstract as is, and yet to me not yet. It's just as streamlined and simple as a game can be while still remaining thematic. I still get the sense that I'm moving around these dark tunnels and destroying monsters and trying not to get killed too much. And really, there is a real sense of tension in some of the missions that become really tough, and maybe you're able to just win by the last second. You had that boost at the end, that emotional release, which is really considerable. It's a considerable emotional payoff. Space Marine Adventures, probably too simple for some of you, but not for parents, not for gamers that want to take a break from time to time. It's simple. It's very linear, it's straightforward, and most importantly, it's fun.